What was a mess up that your body won't let you forget? Trying to help a dead person. This happened Friday. I'm still loopy on pain meds, so bear with me. My best friend and I wanted to go on a hike. Simple and innocent enough. I had been canceling lately due to personal things, and she was about to go out of town for the weekend to see her long-distance partner, so I wanted to spend some time together before she left. I forgot to put on socks, and was more worried about getting out the door quickly. We picked a nearby state park and drove about a half hour out of our way to get there. It's a gorgeous little pocket in our town, with a small lake and a few mild trails. Part of the way down the lakeside trail we both realized we definitely needed socks, and she had lost her phone, so we had to double back. On our way back to the parking lot is when we noticed him the first time. The car had been there since we arrived, I know because we had to walk through the cloud of exhaust on our first trip down to the trailhead. It was the fact that he hadn't moved at all yet that piqued our interest. We minded our business, assumed he was waiting to pick someone up, and got to the car. Hike round 2, time to try again. When I say we took this hike at our own pace, I'm not kidding around. We stopped for every puddle, broken bench, mushroom, weird log, and nice view we came across. What would take some people 40 to 60 minutes took us almost an hour and 40. So obviously, seeing that the car had still not moved set off a few alarm bells. We walked up to the window for the first time and saw an older man, early 60s, with a bushy mustache and glasses, asleep in the front seat. We agreed that with the cold weather and the fact that we could hear and feel the heater in his car at full blast with the windows closed, our biggest concern was carbon monoxide poisoning. We knocked a few times, then more loudly, then she shouted a bit to try and get his attention. No response. I started getting a bad feeling in my stomach, realizing that this was turning into more of a serious situation than we may have realized initially. We run over to the camp host's RV, but no one is around, so it's time for 911. She calls and gives our location, and the operator has us go through a checklist. Can we get his attention? No. Is he breathing? We can't tell, he's wearing several layers and a puffy vest. Okay, it's time to open the door and interact. I mask up and get ready, as between the two of us only I know CPR. This entire time, not a soul who has walked by has given a second glance. Nobody before or after us checked on him, nobody who saw us frantically call 911 or bang on the windows, and there were people who walked by and looked at us, even for a second stop to see if things were alright. She shakes him one last time as a precaution and steps back, informing me the operator has asked us to get him out of the car and perform chest compressions. I cannot feel a pulse or see a breath, but the heater is on full blast, so he is warm and I can't entirely tell. One look at his hands and I knew everything I needed to know, but on the off chance I was wrong and he was still alive, I look around, make sure the parking brake's on, and turn off the ignition so I can focus on removing this larger man. Enter la F up. Immediately the car starts rolling backwards. We are on a slight hill that leads straight to the water, and he is facing away from it. My initial thought is, oh F, this guy's alive and I'm going to push him into the lake and end him. I'm frantically running sideways, pushing with all my strength and desperately trying to find the e-brake. I swear to God this car did not have one. My friend is screaming and pulling on the car, the poor operator is still on the line having to listen to all this, and then whoosh, there goes my footing. The street is basically just compacted mud and rocks, so it was only a matter of time, I suppose. I don't really know what happened to me, and can only get a good idea based off of my friend's account and my injuries pattern. I twisted my knee first, and dislocated it pretty immediately. That pop is not something I will be forgetting anytime soon. Then, as the car was obviously not gonna stop for my clumsy ass, my right hip hit the ground. I got dragged fully under the door of this little blue Chrysler for a good 15 to 20 feet of this hill, ripping through my jeans and both shirts. I then rolled onto my right side for one last bounce and got spat out underneath, butt over tea kettle. Obviously, I'm in a lot of pain. But the adrenaline is still coursing through me and I have to know if he is going into the lake or not. Well, I am not a religious person by any means, but goddamn Jesus took that wheel. The car made a sharp left and backed up into some trees. The guy in the car barely jiggled with impact. My friend, still on the phone with 911, runs up to me to check on me, but I shoo her off to look at the man. I'm totally okay, I wasn't. She took one look at my back and mumbled, F, my boyfriend, is going to end me. And ran off. I didn't even know anything was wrong with my back. I tried to stand up, and feel my knee pop a second louder time. I could absolutely feel two things moving against each other inside, and immediately fell to the ground. This very kind man with the most luxurious Shaun White-esque hair came and helped pick me up and get me out of the road so the ambulance that had just arrived could go by. These paramedics were amazing. In the blink of an eye they got this man out, on his back, stripped his shirt off and began CPR. In another blink they had all their gear set up around them. My friend signed over her phone number and ran back up to me. We got in the car with a bit of a struggle, and Googled the nearest urgent care. After a half-hour drive, they took one look at me and sent me to the ER. My boyfriend took over from there and got me to the hospital. Dislocated and relocated my knee, cracked a few ribs, severe road rash on the majority of my upper back and on my right hip, severe bruising on my left hip. They gave me 10 milligrams of oxycodone in the ER for my debridement and overall pain, and I was still in so much pain I was nauseated and dizzy. On checkout they gave me a script for 15 milligrams of morphine. Still, on morphine, I am about a 6 on the pain scale. I have a few pictures from the day of my injuries if anyone is curious. Eventually, as I'm getting the rock splinters pulled out of my butt and back, my friend texts me with news. They identified the man, pronounced him dead, and found his next of kin. The sheriff was so kind, and thanked us profusely for what we had done and said he wished more people like us existed. He also cleared us of any responsibility for the fate of his car, lol. I've been checking the local obituaries every day since Friday to see if he comes up. I would love to know more about who he was and maybe even contact the family and let them know he was peaceful and looked happy and was not in pain or anything when we got there. Then I remember what happened to the car, usually turn a shade of crimson, and forget about the idea of reaching out to anyone.